and the act is called Sheffield Wednesday Lose Again. Welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Richard Miller, and my co-host knows an opportunity knocking when he sees one. And that's why this week he has launched the product that the likes of Piers Morgan and Donald Trump Jr. have been clamoring for, the real Mr. Potato Head, now with a pipe and a range of different penises. What says take that, woke people, more than a plastic potato with a big willy? He's going to be rich, I tells ya. Dr. Luke Ledall, how are you doing today, Luke?
I'm good. I'm just sitting back waiting for the monies to roll in.
Well, with that in mind, you have given me a little bit of content as the sponsor of this episode. So I'll just read that, get it out of the way. Get the spud with the pod at all good retailers today. Special deal for listeners of this podcast, £5 off and an exclusive Prince Albert attachment. Use the code GRAVY with 7 M's. Don't use less or more because you will be charged extra.
Oh, I do like potatoes. Who doesn't?
Well, you're going to be moving on to a potato diet, Luke.
I am, yeah. I'm going to be doing that. It's going to be fun.
Do we want to get onto the news, or do you have anything else you'd like to share, sort of at the top of the show here?
No, let's crack on with it. Let's really get our teeth into it. Breaking hoo-hoos.
So breaking hoo-hoos. Obviously, we've got the match to cover. The game away at Brentford. Out of sorts and out of form, Brentford welcomed Wednesday. I just before that, though, I would like to cover the fact that in the lead up to the game against Luton, the Sheffield Wednesday Instagram showed Ati Nuyu scoring the winner there in 2019. And the move was started by a lovely pass out from the back from number 12 playing sort of left-sided centre-back. And I was like, who was that? Who was number 12? I listened back with the commentary. It was Judd Thornley. And I thought, in this day and age of us playing 3 at the back, it would be quite nice to have an option as a left-footed centre-back. But another player that was shuffled out the door unceremoniously.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, there you go. Just a kind of passing aside, a kind of jab at the club and the transfer policy, a shot to nothing, as it were. But let's get into the match itself. Dunkley dropped to the bench. Westwood out injured with cracked ribs, I think they called it.
Yes, apparently he's broken his ribs. Yes.
Yeah, and Patterson dropped as well. So we ended up with the front two that everybody has been clamouring for: Rhodes and Kachunga. It was just an immediate kind of. You knew what sort of game we were probably headed for, sort of moment, wasn't it? Seeing that lineup.
Pretty much. I don't know. I made a note about this is Neil Thompson's improv restaurant. Different day, newish old shit. Much like Sheffield Wednesday is having a few image issues. It doesn't really manage to kind of market itself very well. So, that's going to have some issues. And it just feels like we're always going to have to keep trying something. If we try something and it works, it won't work the second time. So we're going to have to try something new again.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, because rarely has picking the same side twice in a row been rewarded with performances twice in a row. So it's reinventing the wheel again and again.
There's an argument then to just play continual new lineups every time, or to keep trying options that don't work. Like, I'm getting so desperate. Like, I would genuinely think. I mean, you've joked about Jordan Rhodes, but sometimes there's been games where Jordan Rhodes hasn't been there, and you thought that Jordan Rhodes really would be the option.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I can almost make an argument for any number of starting lineup. I like the look of Kachunga. He's got many things in his toolbox. He kind of reminds me of a spry kind of Marcus Tudgay in a certain sense.
Yeah.
I kind of get that impression. Rhodes' overall play is pretty bad, but he does still have that knack in those positions when we get him there. So I think there's something to say for that. I still kind of clamor around the concept, which I can completely abandon and think is kind of horseshit. But maybe there's a little bit of you that thinks, maybe if we gave him enough games, we would see more goals. Whether it'd be good enough to tune to, have him play 40 games a season and see what comes out of him. But it depends on the situation, depends who we're playing, and depends what Jordan Rhodes turns up. There's a whole number of issues there.
Yeah.
Patterson, I think, should always play. I never don't want to see Patterson on the pitch in that front two. The interesting thing then is, I mean, to kind of bridge, we can get on to today's game a bit later. In terms of starting lineup, for a two on paper, I think it really has to be Patterson and Windass on paper. But I really want to stress the term on paper, italicize, bold, and underline, and maybe put it in font size 24 amid a line that, the rest of the font size was font size 10, just to really stress the point on paper, because we can get onto this, but a lot of the time this season, one of my disappointments of the season, has been Josh Windass. Josh Windass has disappointed me on a number of occasions. But, I mean,
I like
in
the
terms of
Gothic scope of it being an eternal disappointment. That's quite
exactly. It's a bit like I'm a vampire, and it's just something I have to live with.
Oh dear.
Well, what's his deal? Does he steal the blood of people? No, he lives with the eternal haunting of Josh Windass mything him.
Never quite raising himself above a 6.25 out of 10.
People come to my Transylvanian mansion and they just see me waltzing around with a laptop where I'm just constantly looking at the who scored ratings, just with a tear in my eye.
Oh, but I mean, so post-match, Thompson said we started brightly. I suppose if you're being generous, that is the bit of the match that was bright for us, relatively.
And actually, on my lunch break, I only managed to catch the first half of this game because it was a pretty long day for me that day. So, Richard Miller on this different gravy beach, I am sure that I'll look down on the beach and see that there's only one pair of footprints, and that was from when you were carrying me. And in this episode and the previous 83 episodes of Different Gravy, Richard Miller, take us away.
Well, I mean, I did think that was a very generous take from Thompson to say we started brightly. I think looking at who scored, they've got these little kind of like bar graph type things for the overall rating of the team or the average rating of the team, and there was out of the I don't know how many there are, to be honest. But out of all of those, two of them are in favour of Sheffield Wednesday, and they are pretty much from the start of the game. Everything else, though, is Brentford, and it was pretty one-sided all the way through. I thought we had defended fairly well, but the goal was just full of familiar traits. A sort of scrappy, horrible effort after a long throw. It bobbled off 3 or 4 players and then kind of fell at the feet of one of their players who hit a shot that was probably going about 3-4 feet wide, but it bounced off the face of another player and went into the top corner.
I mean, it did look for the header like a very inventive flick on, but I don't know whether there's a lens that, which is interesting because we're looking at Brentford, a team who are kind of authors of having a playing model that works in new inventive ways. But did you just find it interesting? I mean, there's this instance and there's one instance that we can come to later of a different nature where it's not inventive at all. It was of some real pinball wizardry. really, because it basically just cannoned off everyone and kind of get in. And it was impeccably fortuitous, I must say.
Yeah, and I suppose I think it sort of speaks to this lack of leadership we have at the back. I think particularly when Dunkley's not there, there's nobody who's claiming the ball in that situation. Nobody that's like charging through players to clear up situations. They're all sort of nice chaps, and they sort of very mannerly in the way that they just watched the ball bobble around and then watched Brentford score their goal.
You know what's got a nice chap, Rich? It's my new potatoes. Code gravy. Sign up today, folks.
Exactly. Canos got the assist, and then one of our few bright moments was put to bed by him cynically hacking down Harris. That is there's a callback to that later in the match, like a sort of hokey stand-up show. They were laying the seed for things that might happen later. But nothing much, second half we came out, nothing much changed. It was pretty much all them all the way through. We brought on Deli Bashiru to sort of start making a bit more of an effort to own that midfield. And I actually thought he'd started pretty brightly. I know we generally like FDB, so maybe we're a little bit biased, but I was enjoying some of his work. And then about sort of, he'd been on the pitch 15 minutes or so, turned his man, showed a bit of strength, a bit of pace, and was taken out really by their player, who was yellow carded for it. Dalsgaard was yellow carded for the tackle, but it's just a real shame that sort of cameo was cut short, and any sort of route we had back into the game was then sort of out. Yeah, so it was a shame with Deli Bashiru that he's maybe had two sort of brighter moments in poor performances recently, and now we've lost him for a longer spell, and he'd been the forgotten man for pretty much all of Thompson's time and Pulis's time in charge. He just seemed to sort of worked a little corner of a space into the team, and then it's snuffed out, unfortunately. So yeah, Brentford started off. They had a good chance early on in the second half. That the striker just seemed to overthink his shot and put it wide when he had lots of options that would have resulted in a goal. And I think our performance was sort of summed up by a moment where their keeper hit a poor clearance straight to Palmer, who took it down really well and then passed it immediately back to him, 60, 70 yards, just punted the ball straight back to their goalie so he could have another go. Quite frustrating. The second goal came when Deli Bashiru was off the pitch. They played the ball through the gap that was left by him being there, and that's where the goal sort of resulted from. And I will say, once again, it was a classic Wildsmith one to, again, stood by that near post, just asking for their player to finish off in the sort of 90% of the goal that was available to him. And he took the opportunity. I saw Tom Lees come out with some praise from the game. A lot of praise, actually. People said, oh, he was a giant and things like that. I just don't agree. I don't know what people were seeing.
Do you think there's varying shades of? I mean, you and I remember a season when supporting Wednesday and Lee Grant was our player of the year, and it felt a bit like, because he's the only one with anything to do.
Yes. Maybe there's a bit of that, but I just thought we never looked convincing defensively all game. We didn't do the set pieces properly. Like every set piece seemed to linger on and have a life after the initial ball in. And that their third goal was kind of classic. It was a very tame header. Yeah, it was a very sort of under no challenge and a very easy effort to take. Just a really disappointing game. Obviously, Brentford, they're one of the best teams in the league. They are they were in bad form before they played us. We turned that around for them. It's what we do. It's our job in the Championship. Is just give people that little perk up when they're down, they're having a bad day. Here come Wednesday to turn things around. But Brentford the expectation is we lose this game, so it's hard to go too much after the team. I think it was a weird team selection. We didn't give ourselves much of a chance with particularly that front two. Long ball up to Rhodes has never worked. I know we're saying we're trying all these things.
It's interesting that, isn't it, Rich? Because I mean, it's not working anywhere.
No.
Long ball direct to whoever the big man up top is, just isn't working.
But isn't your idea with what's the point in playing Kachunga and then not playing balls down the channel for him? I don't really understand what his. I had a little like bolt from the blue kind of moment of understanding. I was watching. It would have been Brighton against somebody. Brighton against Crystal Palace this week, and they talked about how Palace had basically none of the ball, but they did stick with two strikers on the pitch all the time. And the what they were wondering was basically Brighton are they're a decent team actually, but they're really bad at converting chances. And the flip side of that is maybe what you do if what Crystal Palace are doing was, well, let's make sure we'll have less chances. We've got less of the building blocks, but when we get chances, we're more likely to finish them off because we've got the personnel on the pitch to do that. So I think that's the reasoning for Jordan Rhodes that I can get along with. Is we've had those games where the ball's bobbling around in the box and you're like, if only there was a goal scorer in there. I don't understand playing Rhodes and making him a target man. I don't think he's got any natural abilities that lead you to think that that's a job for him.
We're very bad at having a cohesive footballing identity, and we're very bad at having a football identity that plays the advantages of whoever we're playing up front is.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
And that's been Rhodes' story at Sheffield Wednesday. Regardless, outside of the separate argument is Jordan Rhodes still the player Jordan Rhodes used to be?
Yeah, outside of that debate is if we're playing him, we've obviously decided he's good enough for a place in the team. Why aren't we doing what he needs to get the best out of him? Because you could just take a very simple meat and potato approach to meat and potatoes. We're back to potatoes again. You could take a very simple approach to the game of football and just say, do you know what? Let's hell or high water. We stick, as you said, with Jordan Rhodes. Let's do that. If he plays, he will get goals eventually. Give him more chances. There should be more goals. So let's play Reach on the left, Harris on the right, cross the ball in, and Rhodes plays up top. I would add to that. I think we should have a back three that is Hutchinson, Lees, and Burner, or Hutchinson, Lees, and Uragide. That would be another sort of requisite of how we play. But the first thing, in terms of that attacking identity, so what the game is for everybody else is get the ball to those wingers. They will put the ball in the box, and then hopefully Jordan Rhodes will score headers, score volleys. That's a style of play. If I was watching that and it was working or not working, I'd at least know what we were trying to do. I just don't feel... There's not the excitement of feeling like we're building towards a goal because you don't know how we get goals. It just happens by accident. We don't build towards it. We're kind of given chances. Most of our recent goals have been defensive errors that we capitalize on, which I'm not so churlish to turn my nose up at capitalizing on those chances. I love it. But outside of those freak moments, where do goals come from?
Yes, that's a bit like not that I'm going to be an advocate for this in my forthcoming tatty diet, but it's like having a balanced diet though. That is part of a healthy goal scoring regime, capitalizing on errors. You know what else is? Things like tap-ins and penalties and set pieces, and which are corners, to be converted, but also free kicks that could be attacked. It could be a whole number of issues, like, again, we're lacking a lot of teeth. a lot of,
Yeah.
we're trying to chew this food, and we've got old Chomper at the front.
Oh, chopper at the front.
We haven't got any incisors. We haven't got any molars. We haven't got any hard gums. We can just smash it with our gums. It's tough. It's really tough.
So I think disappointing, meeting expectations with a kind of, a thudding banality. It was a really disappointing midweek game after a disappointing weekend game. So that leads us into the game this weekend, taking on the Etters at their own place. And we've hit shuffle on the lineup again and come up with some interesting new variations. That's maybe a good equivalent of where we're at. Like, it's a bad album and we keep hitting shuffle hoping that the track listing will make the difference for us.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
No. This still sounds like Black Country New Road.
3 in a row, folks. 3 in a row. Consistently slagging off Black Country New Roads. Different gravy.
So we had Izzy Brown coming in for the first time since September. We also had Borna at the back for the first time in a long while. Still no Westwood. I don't know how long we're expecting him to be out. With ribs can be quite a long time potentially, but he's not a runner, so I don't know whether that means it will be quicker or not.
But that's also interesting. I mean, it's accelerated by the fact that we just have so many games, right? Like, yes. It feels like a sexually long time because we've played so many games, because it's all weekend, midweek, weekend, as much as possible.
It's like a 10th of a season, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so it is. Yeah, blink of an eye, really. You're missing games, and if you're Massimo Luongo, who unfortunately is out for even longer than we expected. I don't know, goodness sake. So aside from a Wildsmith miss kick very, very early on, we started really brightly.
Incredibly so.
Yeah, Patterson flicked a ball over the top for Windass that he nearly got onto, but the keeper was sort of smartly off his line to block that. Izzy Brown had an effort from a long throw, and eventually we grabbed a goal early doors with that pressing that we sometimes do really well and sometimes just don't bother doing at all. I thought it was Hutch had played the ball through to Patterson, but when we eventually got to see the full goal in all its glory, they were showing something else. I think they were showing like the linesman scratching his bum or something when the goal happened the first time round, because they do love showing highlights whilst action is happening on the pitch. But it was just Hutch pressing the midfielder into a mistake, and he basically played a through ball for Patterson, and he picked out Windass at the near post and 1-0 up after 6 minutes.
Yeah, lovely square back across, and Windass converted it between the keeper's legs. Easy as you like. And I think that's really interesting to pick up on, because maybe that is the best thing we have seen from Hutchinson in this game.
Yeah, that's maybe the highlight, and it went down a little bit every minute from then on. But I liked today. So this is, to borrow a cliche, this was the most classic game of two halves you could possibly imagine, I think, because I want to praise the good stuff in the first half. It was glowing.
Yes.
There was lots of it. So let's pretend we don't know how it ends. And
well, I think we should do that, because I think we need to give ourselves a little bit of levity for what we're doing and for what anybody who's still here with us is still listening.
Exactly, yeah. We've got to enjoy the good times. And in this case, in the case of the last, 4 weeks, the good times were the first 45 minutes against Luton Town. I really liked Berner and Uragide getting forward and getting involved in the play. Berner almost had a glorious little cameo at the sort of 15-16 minute mark, where he played a ball through for Penny that was really nice, and that was well cleared, but from the corner then Berner won the header, like towered above everybody at the back stick. But unfortunately, he didn't hit the target, and also nobody was able to get on the end of it. But that started off a good spell of pressure where we had 5 or 6 corners in short
5
succession.
corners in a row.
Yeah, and every one of them felt like it could go in or resulted in extra little moments, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But this, we touched on. My next note is about Hutch. If we had those 5 corners in a row, I think that was also a spell around that sort of 20-30 minute mark. Hutchinson had given the ball away 5 turns of possession in a row. He lofted a ball straight out of play to Penny, and that seemed to start off a run of playing it behind people or too slow to people, so it was getting intercepted. And he really, really struggled with his passing all day today. I know they said the pitch was bobbly, but you make the one mistake and then you hit it, you do it better the next time, don't you? Like, you don't just keep making the same mistake again. That's maddening for everybody. So the 40th minute, we had another really close run of little moments. So Windass had a shot that was blocked. It was a little bit greedy of him to take the shot on, but Penny managed to then hit one hard and low and on target. And Patterson followed up and hit it over the bar, but unfortunately it was offside anyway, so it didn't matter. But I'm still amazed at how often and effortlessly Penny hits the target with his shots from everywhere, whether they're volleys, scuffed little things. It just always seems to get it on target with pace.
He can really strike a ball.
He really can.
Yeah. I kind of want to stop you here, Rich. Can we just kind of go a little bit back in time, a little bit further here? You haven't mentioned the Windass one-on-one on the 21st minute mark.
Yeah, how can I forget?
How can we have another game in which this is very much a Windass trait, isn't it? That he gets a brace, he looks electric in a game, but we still come over it and say he should have had 3 or 4 this game.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that was a great slip in. Brilliant. What you want, Josh Windass, where you want him to be, who you want him to be, where, in what situation, and had the right idea, but was probably just trying to be just a little bit too clever, I think.
Yeah. Being a bit too clever is a bit of a trait for him, isn't it? I think he does sort of overthink.
It can be, yeah. But yeah, he just kind of tried to lift it into the top corner, but he missed that target.
Do you think that they're like him and Patterson are maybe the opposite way round in that, like the way they're wired in those situations? Because I feel like Windass, most of his goals are when he doesn't have that time to think about it, he'll finish pretty well, and then with Patterson, it's like if he's given a little moment to think about it, he tends to do something fairly, like he'll flick it over the goalie, or he'll sort of suck in a man or create an angle for himself. I'm just thinking some of the goals he scored recently, Patterson. It's been about having that little bit of presence of mind and taking your time has been what's served him well. But with Windass, it seems like the more time you give him, the more likely he is to try and do something too clever or nothing. Just runs into the situation rather than making a decision. So the next thing I've got really is the second goal. Is there anything else you'd like to sort of feed in for the first half?
I just loved. There were so many great moments. Izzy Brown just seemed fantastic in that role. Just seemed to really just be carving open that chances. Seems to be creating a lot of space. I've also made a note that now this is almost what I call entertainment 4. This must be a record for Wednesday in terms of like the XG stat, the stat which I hate, but maybe.
Yeah, we felt dangerous all the time, didn't we? Really?
Yeah, I mean, we looked so dynamic. I didn't know who this team was. As part of that, big focus. You've also mentioned, Urahide. I thought he was just incredible. I loved him challenging. I think there's one point he challenged for a through ball where he went to go contest it for a header with the keeper. Yes. He wasn't going to get there, but the attitude that he got to get there kind of.
Yeah, I loved that moment as well. Actually, yeah, that was cheap.
Nudged the keeper by going up and challenged for it. And then he turned and he just chewed up the ground to get back afterwards.
Yeah.
And it was just fantastic to see him just doing his go-go gadget legs and getting on that one. And I loved his 1-2 overlap. He did a 1-2 overlap on the right wing as well.
Yes,
Which
yeah,
was really, really fantastic. Yeah, there was so much to like. I'm just gonna say,
I
just so
know. And I also just thought, I don't know, like I thought Bernard did a really good job with his man as well, like because he just completely bullied him, like all of that half. How many times the ball just would come to that corner of the pitch, and then it would be Burner walking away and Ince in a heap on the floor. And he hadn't fouled him; he'd just been strong or brushed him off or kind of used his backside to get between them or whatever. And it was just, yeah, there were just good moments all the way around. And it was, yeah, nice to see those centre backs pushing on and making things happen, being that extra man and adding to the threat and making things. It made moves last longer that we had the bodies forward for those moments. Corners didn't just end up as a ball going in and then a clearance. It was the extended the moments that were difficult, the XG sort of moments, to use that horrible statistic.
exactly, yeah. But maybe also horrible from the fact that we're Sheffield Wednesday and we don't do that. We don't attack the goal mouth, we don't score goals, we don't create clear chances. So a bit of bitterness from myself, and maybe from yourself as well. But anyway, yes.
So Urigide, we mentioned him getting forward and it being useful. He did play his part in the goal. It was a corner that Luton failed to clear, and Urigide was part of that. So he was starting to head back, and then he noticed there was a loose ball and sort of happened upon it. The ball ended up with Patterson there, and he laid it off for Harris. And the former sandwedge purveyor whips one in. It goes through Tom Lees somehow and lands at the feet of Windass, who, to borrow a phrase from baseball now, instead of golf, absolutely knocks the cover off it as it sails into the top.
Excellent, yeah. Just what a hit.
Oh man.
It's I think it's probably the closest thing from an open play goal. The closest thing we have seen from Wednesdayites, similar to Kevin Pressman's penalty against Wolves.
Yes, it was that sort of, if there wasn't a net there, it would still be going up.
It was always rising. Yeah, it just looked like a helium balloon on rockets, basically. It was something else. And it was just so casual. My notes, I said casual, controlled, vicious. And,
yes.
And the fact that he stood still afterwards, just...
That was badass.
It was fucking badass. And there's my second note is, this is the Josh Windass I've been hearing about. This is the player who other teams go, oh, he's a threat. He's a really good player. We should look out for him today.
Yes.
Like when he's on form and when he does this, he's incredible. It's just, it doesn't happen enough.
No, it doesn't. But then out of our players who, if you're looking at, we're talking about if you play Rhodes, I feel like the opportunity, the chance of a goal that let's go back to XG, the the aroma, the essence of goal is in the air with Windass in a way that it's not with many of our players. It doesn't happen enough, but he misses chances that other people just simply wouldn't have had. That's why he's so frustrating, because it's like this. He's got a lot of those intangible. He's got kind of it, but then it seems to get in his own way in a weird way. But this, what a finish, and what a cool celebration. Very good, very very cool all the way around. And closing out, probably the best half of football we've seen this season from Sheffield Wednesday.
Just incredible, just so dynamic. The only thing I think we kind of didn't do so well, but it's very much a Sheffield Wednesday trait. And I'm going to I really would have liked to have said, this is sad, but it's something we'll look over. Like there was zero control on the game.
Yes. The
positive of that was, we got forward and created these chances and just absolutely marauded in their half in the final third. But for a lot of it was very much like, we're under the cosh again because we're so open. It's so kind of back and forth. nobody's really putting their foot through it. No one's playing it through the middle. A lot of the time, for as good as the defensive, especially for that first half was, we're just welling it forward. We're just clearing it. Just get over the pitch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that was
but it's a little bit more play.
I think so.
Things like Berners through ball, that's us passing it across the back four, or back five. Then they're giving us the space to do that, and then us taking that space to the halfway line so that we keep we keep possession further up the pitch. But yeah, more often than not, it's just going long. It goes to Wildsmith, who smacks it as hard as he can.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of eventual place where things end up, if there's any sort of pressure put on us by the opposition.
Maybe that's the precursor for the second half.
Well, my moment of caution at half time. Once again, I've got timestamps. I did text my sister at half time to say, we will get tired. We put a lot of effort into that first half. There was a lot of people blowing at half time. And I think to talk about him again, Hutch was knackered by about 25-30 minutes. He slowed down visibly and was puffing. And I think that started to tell. It's worrying that we don't have the effort to hold that up for. I think professional athletes should be able to go hard for an hour. I think that's probably not too much of an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, my first note of the second half is, second half, what's that? Says every Wednesday player. Because it was instantaneous. They made three subs at halftime, didn't they? And those were the only subs that they made for the whole game.
Right. Who did they bring on?
They brought on Glenn Rea, Mpanzu, Pelly Ruddock Mpanzu, and Harry Cornick, who sounds like he should have a sort of residency in Vegas where he sings show tunes. Not quite as good as Michael Bublé. Harry Cornick.
So at least I really want to be kind of vilified for one very, very small thing, which is we were watching the game and I was texting you, Rich, and I said,
want to be vilified.
Really, really want to be kind of proven on this one. If I'm using the right words here, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm not wrong. Who knows? Everyone knows I'm wrong. Anyway, I was like, is that the much wank Tom Ince for Luton?
I still maintain. So this, right? Okay, so you've done this. I didn't do this to you on the podcast, Luke. I didn't throw you under the bus for Stoke, but Luke, whilst we were watching the Stoke game, texted me to slag off Stephen Fletcher. And then lo and behold, Stephen Fletcher scores the goal. And then today, during the match, he starts to slag off Tom Ince. And I'm saying, wait till the 90th minute. I do turn to, when we're at a match, my sister, I will say, she will say to me, or I will say to her, I've got something to say at 90 minutes. And what that generally means is we have a comment about the opposition, an opposition player. But what we don't want to do is kind of
put the mockers on it.
Put the mockers on it. Bring down it's not the gods of Schadenfreude, but the feel that weight of shouldn't have said that. But you're right. This game,
he went off. Were you slagging
him off at half time, or was it during the first
half? First half, because I saw Ince, and I'm like, "Is that Tom Ince?"
Yes.
I don't know how far he's drifted down, like his championship career.
Yeah, he's drifted down this far. He's always been rubbish. He was more rubbish than normal today. So I absolutely agree with you. He's made a whole career on like, but what if?
Yes, a very, very
one of these guys.
A very early promise. He was good at one point in time, but he's been devastatingly poor for a good 5-6 years now. It feels like a long time. I'm staggered he's still drawing, still getting a footballer's wedge somewhere, even at Luton.
But he's only 29,
I know, but that's the thing. You get players who come through at such a young age that they're like, he's still playing football because it's 10 years later because he's come through at a young age. So, he's still part of his footballing career.
Yeah.
I love the interchange that you said, shh, I think he's underrated. And I said, he's sh-t. I
No,
miss the
it's
old
fair enough.
scoreboard. I miss the old scoreboard.
Oh, me too.
Mm.
The good old days. Uncle Dave.
You know,
Simpler times.
the big thing that kind of, and we're gonna play at clubs like Luton Town next year in League One. We're gonna play at like clubs like this where I was looking at that stadium in the first half as a kind of pithy aside kind of comment. I was like, what is going on with the geometry of that ground? It is, it is, it is shit, but it is charming. I must say, a charmingly shit ground that they have. I'm like, what in the did they manage to somehow get a young MC Escher as a student to design a stadium or something? Like, what is going on?
Oh, that's a new album I do like, the MC Asher album. Very, very good. His esoteric beats. Sorry, that's such a dad joke.
But like, I think the interesting thing with this is the real humbling thing of going away and being beaten by a team like Luton Town, who very much have a series of kind of well-drilled, hard-working players who, are professional football players and do have skill sets. Like,
yes,
can humble you and embarrass you. Like, but then you kind of look around and you kind of look around the stadium and you think this is a football club that's very much tied to its community. From its poxy halftime promotion.
That was something else, that advert.
That is fantastic, isn't it? I'm like, I don't know what you do as a business. I feel like I'm talking to some kind of Guy Ritchie character.
We're JB Developments, which is part of JB House Helping, which is part of the group that does other things to do with your ass.
We take things off the van into your pocket, Kushti.
Don't worry, I've got a Land Rover.
Yeah, so it's all these clubs that have like such a great tie to their community and the real life and soul and blood of a community, and tie with the fan base and engage and do things well and do things right. It might have a little old humble me, little old humble Luton, in the championship doing this, but they're doing it right, which is the most damning thing in comparison to Sheffield Wednesday.
Isn't that is an interesting point, because I was also thinking they had loads of, more than I've seen anywhere else, of the cardboard fans in the crowd.
Yeah. I also found it very jarring seeing actual real people, like because they had people at the ground staff, like ball boys or people working at in some aspects, like having a cup of tea, like in front of cardboard cutouts of other people. It's very jarring. I find it very jarring.
But what I was thinking though is, how Wednesday dealt with that. Oh, we'll chuck them up for the first few months, and then, do you want this, or should we throw it out? Come and get it if you want it, or we'll throw it out. And it speaks to the weird relationship. We joked about Unky Dave and the time of Dave Allen being the chairman, but when I was first getting really kind of emotionally engaged with Wednesday beyond just kind of watching matches, it was your relationship to the club, or my relationship to the club was, there's almost a thing I'm helping out, like buying a shirt, maybe it's overpriced, but I'm helping out and I'm making a contribution. You remember the wristbands that the sort of, some people had them for charities, but we had we had one for Sheffield Wednesday. Those sort of things. You're like, oh, apparently they've sold like 20,000 of these. That's 150 each. Those sort of things. You're like, this is all helping. This is a project. We're all pulling together. We're all part of this. And it's so strange now to be. Well, one, it would be weird anyway. We're cut off from the club. We've talked about how we're not experiencing the good bit, the nice bit of being a football fan at this point in time anyway. But to have a chairman that has actually said the words, the fans pay for nothing, nothing, what the fans contribute does nothing
Yes,
it's
I know.
a strange place to be in, and that, having those cardboard cutouts up, that's a revenue stream.
I
And
know. I know.
I know it's nothing in the grand scheme of things, but like every drop in the ocean is a drop in the ocean. It's not nothing. And you just sort of think, what if we did have a North Stand full of people paying 15 quid or 20 quid for that? I know it's not match day revenue, but it's at least one game's match day revenue more than we would have had.
I know. I feel a couple of things. I mean, overall with the arching thing, that I'm pretty confident that we're going down to League One, especially. It felt pretty clear last week, but it feels even clearer now. That we conceded 6 goals in 2 games.
Yeah.
And have 2 losses. The interesting thing was, prior to going to this, and especially with the layout of this, the one thing I was going to say to you, we haven't drawn a game under Neil Thompson.
Right. Yes.
Because the last draw was with Blackburn. Was that the last game of Pulis's reign, drawing with Blackburn?
It would have been. I just
2 overarching things. The sad thing of all this is, we're going down. There's no great fight. I can probably make this analogy, which is incredibly sad, incredibly heartbreaking, because I've lived a year last year where I was in a different country and my mum died and I didn't get to go to her funeral.
Yeah.
And I didn't get the chance to be there to, be there for the final moments of her life. So it feels similar to that in a weird way. It feels like, Wednesday are dying, we don't get to visit during this time. So a lot of kind of analogies during this kind of period. The second thing I think I'll kind of want to say is like another kind of really bad analogy, though this one's a bit less emotionally attached, so it can be quite pithy, is I feel like Chansiri, he's putting on a potluck, but then he's telling us beforehand that he doesn't really want us to bring any food for it. But then secretly after he does that, he's like, why aren't they bringing food? Why aren't they bringing the food? No, he tells them that the food we're making is shit, but he doesn't want to eat it.
That's more like it, isn't it? It's insulting that what you're doing is not worth anything. You can make a potato salad, but I don't want it on my fucking table. You can bring it if you want. I know that you love making that Cobb salad, you disgusting wretch. But if you want to turn up with that in your Tupperware, fine. Don't expect me to be happy about it. I've made chicken cordon bleu that I've not cooked properly. It's fancy, like you wanted, but inedible.
Now it's 2:00 and I'm hungry.
Shall we get into the sad unraveling of the best half of football to maybe the worst half of football of the season thus far?
It was the best of halves. It was the worst of halves.
It was Luton away. So 50th minute, one of these little things that, again, I know it's confirmation bias, but my heart always sinks when we give away a corner when we didn't need to. I feel like we get punished for it so often. And I feel like the XG in that situation goes through the roof when it's a corner you didn't have to give away. And Patterson, it was a weird freak moment. So the cross bounces off the side of Patterson's head. Looks like it's going out, and Mpenza moves out of the way to sort of let it roll out of play. It spins back at him so that him and Patterson sort of tussle for it, and Patterson flicks the ball. He's trying to flick it out for a throw-in. It doesn't go for a throw-in. It bounces off the corner flag and then goes out for a corner. And immediately my hackles are up because this is perfect. Didn't need to be a corner. We're going to get punished for it territory. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. The corner went to the near post. Their massive centre-back, Naismith, found some level of quality in his left peg and sort of guided this whipped-in ball into the far side of the goal, completely unencumbered by any attention from a Sheffield Wednesday player. It turns out he was Hutchinson's man. He'd lost Hutchinson in the heap, and Hutchinson was sort of down, holding his knee. we didn't ever see why that happened, as far as I remember. I don't know if you picked anything up.
I think he was just pushed over. Like that
Right.
seemed to just be the situation. It seemed to be there was one moment. I don't know the exact, JFK-ness of it. One moment he was vertical, one moment he was horizontal.
Mm.
You know.
You're suggesting there was a second Naismith. Posing as a cardboard cutout that shot Hutchinson in his bad knee.
I also want to say that since he got down on the floor, he got horizontal very quickly. The slag.
Oh, it's fun to slut shame Sam Hutchinson.
Exactly.
It looked like he got embarrassed by his man and sort of took the easy way out to me. Patterson saw him come round and tried to react, but he was sort of 3 feet away. The other thing is we didn't have anybody on the far post, so the ball went into a completely empty net. So yeah, frustrating. Immediately we're panic stations. This wonderful first half is already shaking.
Yep.
58th minute. It didn't take long for the next one. Sorry, go on.
I just want to kind of also focus on this as Sam Hutchinson coquettishly had his legs up in the air. The little whore. There he is.
In his Cuban heels.
This is a hallmark of Wednesday right now as well. Every time we concede, we're appealing for something weak as well.
Oh no.
Every time is like, oh, did you was there one of them? Was it one today or was it the previous game? I think it might have been the game against Brentford. You have to fill me in here. One of them, Wildsmith was pointing to his arm.
Yeah.
As though he was like, as I was looking, acknowledging, like, yes, Joe, those are things you should use to stop the ball from going in the net, lad.
That's what they meant about the armies. Use your armies to save the bally. Oh. I'll try better next time. I've just seen the very disheartening statement from Thompson after the match. The second half, we just sacked off the game. Half time, we sat down. We thought, "That's it, lads. Sack it off. Second half. Go home." Oh dear. So,
they're all DOS in school, aren't they? That's it. It's like a bloody Enid Blyton book in the second half, isn't it? They all went off to Dorset with Timmy, whatever it is.
Slightly less Chinaman references than your typical Enid Blyton.
Exactly.
So before we didn't even make the hour mark before we'd completely capitulated. I don't know what happened. I haven't pored over this one to kind of point all of the fingers that need to be pointed, but the ball goes up to Patterson. It looked like it was going to be fairly easy to control, but he trapped it really badly and it ended up about 9 feet away from him. But that was in their half. So a lot of meters and time passed before the ball got to our box. They played the ball forward into the channel for Adebayo, and he just had the freedom of the city. He had a lot of room there. It took a long time for Tom Lees to get over to do anything like pressure him. And by that time, he'd picked out a ball, a cutback to the penalty spot, and Tunnicliffe was absolutely free from any pressure or completely unmarked, and had the chance to have a cup of tea, have a sit down, put one of those little handkerchief hats on, and then get off his deck chair to put the ball wherever he liked in the goal. Dreadful defending, really poor.
Yeah. The first one, the one I think hurt the most for me because it just felt so needless, but there was some pretty bad defending for that second one as well.
The Adebayo, sorry, just whilst we're talking about him, it was almost like the first half we dealt with him brilliantly, and in particular, I thought Rigide had done really well with him, but there was a couple of times where Tom Lees did all right with him as well. And it was almost like somebody went to Tom Lees, who's, famously got a shellfish allergy, and he was midway through some sort of Mary Rose sauce doused prawn cocktail, and they're like, Tom, aren't you allergic to big athletic defenders? And then he realized at halftime he was, and suddenly his eyes are swollen up and he can't see anything. The blood is rushing in his ears.
The really surprising thing for me was, like you said, they made 3 substitutions at halftime. So I was there thinking, Mapanzu had a big effect on the game.
Yes, he did.
But I was like, I could not have told you. I thought that Adebayo didn't play the first half because it looked like a completely new player.
Yeah.
I also think I do want to say to kind of give some kudos. I think he's a pretty good player.
Oh, there are lots to like. Lots to like.
And I've just seen that they signed him in the January transfer window from Walsall.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be nice if we signed a player like
that? We got Green, Luke. We're drinking in that sweet, sweet Andre Green juice every day. Luton are probably like, if only we had Andre Green.
And then we as part of our recruitment drive, we contacted JJB Developments, and they've managed to get us Hutchinson off the back of a lorry.
Well, you're wanting a new striker. Well, I don't have any new strikers. What I've got is a knockoff midfielder come defender. Bit shop worn. I will be truthful with you. He's needs the legs hanging off and stuff, but will do a job. And I think in this position, you want something that will do a job. That's my Paxao impression, by the way. That's what I imagine he talks like when he speaks to.
Just like him.
on their long, lustrous Super Bowls.
This is hilarious because the Wednesday fans have brilliantly, photoshopped in Chancery of a Del Boy Trotter, but maybe it should be Amadou Paxao we put in there.
Is there anybody that sells stuff to Del? Because he makes all these bad investments. Who's the person he's buying his stuff from? Because that's the relationship, isn't it? If John is Del Boy, then Paxao is the one selling the exploding sex dolls. But we didn't. It wasn't without moments second half, but it was such a
Actually, a bit before they equalised, I think the 53rd minute, I made a note. I really enjoyed seeing Brown had one where he had the ball played into him in his own half, and he just kind of took a few small touches, took 2 of their players out the game, and then from nowhere just boosted forward with the ball.
Yeah, no, that was nice to see, and I thought this, and then again at 66-minute mark, Rigide made a really good, sharp interception, brought the ball forward from that position and played it into Brown. Brown found Penny out wide. Wasn't the best ball from Brown, but it meant we kept possession. Penny, instead of putting the ball in, waited for Bannon, and Bannon picked out Patterson on the far post. And I thought Patterson really should have done much better with that. It's the sort of thing that he does tend to gobble up those sort of opportunities, and it was a sort of underpowered effort. He maybe should have done better, but I wonder if the decision then from the bench was that he looked tired in that effort because he went off shortly thereafter.
I'm wondering, in this world of the hilarious Blades Analytics, who's managed to, be a Twitter football analyst who's got work at a championship club, I think, hasn't it? We're in this now age that basically the people on Twitter who are the football analysts, get hoisted up. I think I could probably do, I'm not that much of a great thinker, Rich, but I think I'm really going to stretch my Edward de Bono mentality for this. And also I'm going to get one of those Steve Jobs turtlenecks. I'm going to go to Luton Town and offer them a really interesting proposal. Put the camera on the other side of the pitch. What in the lens flare was going on? I felt like I was playing Zelda. Like, that's also the thing for the second half. I can't tell you what we did because typically
Every time.
we'd be
Yeah.
on the left flank in the corner, and I can't see any of it.
No, it was it was really annoying.
Fucking garbage.
Oh, we made some subs though, Luke, didn't we? You saw that happened.
We like them subs. Well, Thompson likes us subs. We don't like what Thompson thinks of subs.
Did we need any of the subs that we made today?
Rich and I are working at Subway, and Neil Thompson comes in, and we say, "Do you want like an Italian BMT? Do you want a meatball marinara?" He's like, "No, I just want you to just daub some shit on a 6-inch. Do you want it toasted? Oh, of course I'll have it toasted. Yeah, you know."
It really brings out the nuttiness. Oh dear. So Patterson goes off and Penny went off again. I don't.
No, I know. Well, the thing that I thought was funny was like I thought Penny was doing well, apart from like especially. I mean, I don't know. The interesting thing is so Adebayo, Flashscore is not really helping me. Flashscore seems to think he's a defender. He might have been a defender who's converted to a striker, but he is a striker, right?
Yeah.
But then he was also having so much joy on that left flank, which I think we were. I think there was a big focus on teams having joy with the flank. The only thing I thought we could have done maybe is, I don't know, maybe we could have gone for a 4-4-2 or gone for more of a 5-3-1, 5-3-2.
Yeah.
Maybe to try and kind of, because they kept exploiting us on our right, on their left. But then, so in a weird way, I was like, well, we are losing that battle. But the element of doing that is not taking Penny off, who was doing so well going forward, and that is so much positive to this game, and replacing him with Adam Reach. That is not a legitimate answer to what you want to do here. But it's all just desperate times, isn't it? It's the times are so desperate that we're even resorting to playing Izzy Brown, which the beginning of this game I wasn't optimistic for seeing Brown. Brown did very, very, very well. And
that's a point of discussion. Do you think he's back now, or do you think this was the best game we'll ever get out of him because he had a point to prove against Luton?
I don't know. I think we're well worth. That could well be the case, but we're well worth playing him another game at least.
I think so too. I by and large, I really thought he worked well.
But that's the thing. Is basically the interesting thing is we're playing free in the middle of the park. It never works defensively for us. We've now got a fascination with playing Hutchinson in the middle of the park, which me and you are not fans of.
No,
I personally don't think it's working. I don't know why. The hilarity that, he seemed to, from what we were told, sign this contract that had a big kind of playing incentive. But I don't know we just seem to just play him every week anyway, every game.
Yeah.
The point I wanted to make, sorry, Richard. Sorry, I do apologize. We're doing free in the middle park, which you think should have some defensive steel. You think it should have a little bit of everything, hopefully, within the personnel to do everything you want the midfield to do. To defend the game, to control the game through the middle, and create opportunities to go forward. But we keep trying that, and sometimes we have two defensive figures, even playing Hutchinson and Pelopessi, and it never works. It never has a control or hold on the game. So in that case, like, I don't know, desperate rolls of the dice, we may as well play more attacking players in the middle of the park.
Well, I think the thing is, if Bannon is the attacking one of meant to be the attacking one of the three. So if we have him with two defensive players, he's too easy to mark out of the game because Bannon's response to pressure and pressing is to find space. And generally where he finds the space is deeper and deeper in the field. So that's why him and Hutchinson don't work together, is that Hutch is the same. Hutch does not like pressure when he's on the ball. He wants time and space. He wants to look up and have a fag and then play his pass. So he wants to drop all the way deep, ends up being an extra centre back. And if Bannon's trying to do the same, they're fighting for this same little pocket of space. And it drags the whole team back. And then there's no link between who people who are trying to attack, and the defense. There's no midfield because they're all defending. So Brown is sort of the only natural player for that position really in the squad. Maybe Hunt could play it. I don't know, but it actually takes a bit of tactical discipline to stay there and not get dragged back into the fight with everybody else. Yourself slightly adrift from the fray means you're an option for a pass, and it means you can turn attack into defense. It means you can take those 2 or 3 touches and break into space. So yeah, I thought it was promising, and I'd like to see more of it. You'd hope with Hutch or Pelopessi with a dedicated job of just purely defending in that midfield, which is what they're both there to do when they play. You should be able to have the luxury of, as long as he's active and doesn't sort of sulk, the luxury of a player like Brown who's mainly dedicated to attacking. And yeah, I thought he put in a good shout for being allowed to do it again in the future. As long as this isn't, as I say, a kind of "I'll show you, Luton Town." Send me back early, will you?
I'll shit in your hatters. Yeah. So wow.
Jack Marriott back, Luke. Are you really excited for that as well? Seeing as you like people coming back, apparently.
I can't muster the energy to be sarcastic. No.
But what a performance. Again, he was against an ex-club as well. We really saw that.
Yeah, that was interesting so I had that on the commentary. Like Rob O'Neill said, he scored a lot of goals for Luton. I was like, did he? I forgot that I didn't know his I only ever think of him as Peterborough, Derby.
I don't know that he did play for them now, because I've said that because of...
He did.
Okay.
He did, yeah.
Not according to who scored, but
Yes, 15, 16 and 16, 17 season. He scored 22 goals in about 80 games.
A lot of games.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. And we really saw it. He was out to show his old employers what they were missing out on. Essentially, it's a man with quite a bit of hair on his head and a beard.
I don't know whether we actually signed Jack Marriott or whether... I don't know if we just signed... It could well be just that we just signed Jack Marriott. Is that bad? He looks like a YouTuber.
Yeah, like he should be accidentally saying offensive things to keep his followers interested.
Mm-hmm.
His numbers up. I was saying the N-word jokingly. It's ironic.
Exactly. Yeah.
I did it by accident. I was surprised. And then the final sub of all the pointless subs, Dunkley came on for Burner. I didn't see maybe Burner. It's a long time since Burner's played a match. Maybe Burner was fading. But again, this is a sub. That means we swap every single person's position in the defence. Tom Lees goes from the middle to the right. Dunkley goes into the middle, and Urugide gets shifted from the right over to the left.
I thought it was just pure set piece desperation, being that like Dunkley's slightly better in the air. Bring him on. That's the only thing I could read it as, because unless you want to just give some minutes to just keep Dunkley active, maybe there's a view that Thompson wants to bring Dunkley in for the next game. I don't know. Mind you, it's not a great deal of time, is it? Really?
No. He looked like a bomb scare, though. Like last time he came on from the bench, he looked awful and way off the pace. He looked miles off the pace. Mm-hmm. Threw himself into a tackle, completely left us open. He really did. Well, he wasn't on the pitch for long, but it was quite the cameo for a centre-back. And just to kind of, we brought on these subs, we're going to affect the game positively. Well, several of the subs popped up in giving them the third goal. Jordan Rhodes inexplicably passed the ball to Mpenza in the middle of the pitch. He had 2 or 3 options, and what he did was roll it to the nearest Luton player and then sort of huff and sigh. He didn't go chasing after the ball. He just let Mpenza sort of wander forward from that position. So Mpenza moves the ball forward, moves the ball out wide. Reach missed an interception. The ball was like literally rolls under his foot, and the ball gets crossed in. And there are 2 Luton. There was more Luton players than Wednesday players in the box anyway. But at the far post, there are 2 unmarked Luton players just waiting to score their header. Tom Lees was holding hands with Wildsmith in the middle. I don't understand what happened, but this is the sort of thing that happens when you move all of your defenders around in the 80 whatever minute, because Tom Lees should have been marking one of those two men as the centre of that midfield, centre of that defence. Urugide would have been marking one of the two of them because Urugide had a really good game on the right. And I don't know where Dunkley was in it, but they were all basically they were nowhere to be seen. No, not had no impact on it, and it was nodded down at the near post. So Wildsmith will have had his nightmare lived out because he got beat at that near post, which he's so keen to mark at all times. And really, the team's outdone themselves.
Yeah.
They keep finding new and intriguing ways to lose the game of football. Is there anything more to say really on the match?
I guess just a kind of overall point from me. Actually, before we get there, what was all the stuff with the goal net in stoppage time?
I think it just got broke because Wildsmith fell into it, didn't he?
Right. So who is instigating that we need to look at the goal net at this point? Because
it's like this. It is a weird safety thing. We have had games held up by it before. Yeah, it's a weird.
Because I'm like, is this serious? Is this something we seriously need to look at, or is it just gamesmanship?
No, I think it's like a referee protocol-y, fourth official type thing. But then probably it's in place so that a ball doesn't hit somebody in the crowd or something like that's unexpectedly, which they're not there. They were made of cardboard. So although the build-up was different to other losses, there's a few threads that we always seem to include in the mix. So every sub was bad. Every sub made us worse than the sub before. Almost every sub made a mistake. Oh no, every sub made mistakes that let Luton off or gave them the ball, gave them chances to score. Every shot they had went in.
Yeah.
So again, we don't have a goalkeeper that helps in any way really.
No.
Wildsmith, they passed the ball. Luckily, it went to Hutchinson, but the first thing he did today could have been a pass to their player unchallenged in the middle of our half. So and from there he didn't do anything particularly helpful afterwards. Very, very frustrating, heartbreaking really, to be as high as we were at half time, doing as well as we were at half time, and to end the game in such a disappointing fashion.
Yeah, I didn't have any expectations going into this one.
But it was such a good first half. We were at it from
I know.
And it doesn't seem to matter. We don't have the quality to sustain two halves of decent football. It is a classic again. I mean, this half-time thing, and we joke about it. We joke about the oranges. But clearly, that Luton have had a rocket. They've changed things round. And we've been told, well done, lads. You're doing great. We keep getting surprised by the fact that opposition teams can improve, can make changes, tactical and personnel wise.
Mm-hmm.
It catches us out constantly. I don't know. I just don't know what the best thing. We've talked about Thompson, whether Thompson's. I don't blame Thompson. I don't think it's a job that he particularly is excited for. Presumably, given that he's had the job a couple of times previously and didn't have it this time, presumably Bullen didn't want to be assistant again. It's a thankless task. But I just don't. Do we need somebody to come in just to have a bit of a plan, a bit of a thought about things, and less of a panic? The worst thing that seems to have happened to us was these 5 subs, because it feels he has to make more than 3 subs every single game to justify the fact that we've voted for this rule change. Anything else?
No, I don't know. It's is there any point making a roll in the dice regarding a new manager coming in? Is there any point to that? Like, it genuinely feels like maybe Mr. Chansiri might just think that he's just going to waste some more money.
I know. I must admit, I go back and forth, because we know that Thompson's well liked. We know that this is a bad squad of players. 3 being this poor under 3 managers. This is no longer a good squad held back by a bad manager. they are just rotten to the core, and there's no depth, there's no consistency. So whoever's in charge is going to have to deal with an awful lot. It's just that when you're on a run like this, you're looking and saying, well, something needs to change. And one thing that we can change is who's in charge. We can't change very much else. We've only got one goalkeeper.
Who's fit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
We've basically got the midfield that we play, three. If we play three at the back, that's every player that we've got that can play in the back. It's just almost every position. That's all we've got. So what can't change is the personnel on the pitch very much.
Yeah.
So it's just looking at, is that what can change? Is there anything that can change? Is it worth changing? Those are the questions, aren't they? So do we want to do some honourable mentions and maybe a villain of the piece sort of exercise?
Yeah, so honourable mentions. I think we can probably share this three ways.
Okay.
I want to say Urahide, Brown, and Windass.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
I think all three of them had brilliant moments in that first half, and I feel it's unfair to kind of. The difficult thing was I thought the defense was so good for most of this. So
I know.
I have this weird thing, especially like doing this podcast, is looking at individual players, and I feel like individually sometimes it's quite good, even though we concede and ship goals. It's, it does seem to be a more holistic problem.
Yeah.
So
though, I don't know why there's not more clamour, because he's another one that's out of contract, isn't he? End of season.
I know, but we seem to have picked our narratives in some weird way. Like, I mean,
he's a much better prospect than Shaw is at this point.
I could probably say as much. Yeah. I mean, I guess Wednesday, like historically, academy wise, we've had a lot of juice from the rear guard, right?
Yeah.
Defense,
so something
and then
further up the field is more exciting.
Yeah. So it is quite a revelation if we have a player who can do well at the top of the pitch. It seems to have been Fornelly wasn't 100% ours, I guess, but he's one. And then obviously you go back to the days of Richard Wood, Mark Beavers, and Tommy Spur, right?
Yeah, 3 left-sided centre-backs.
Exactly.
I just think Urahide, he's comfortable on the ball. He's obviously an absolute unit. He's a great athlete. And maybe just at the moment, but he plays with a kind of passion and he's desperate to get the ball. He's desperate to get, nip in front of the striker. And I think he's rarely let us down. I know he didn't have a great game against Stoke, but you're talking about a guy that plays right back or centre back, and playing in the left side of centre back is a bit unfair. As the young player, maybe he's lost out due to seniority, but he's also got less experience than anybody else of playing those positions. So it's harsh that he gets the hardest job just because he's the youngest player. That almost feels the wrong way around for it to work. But I'd like to see a bit more talk about him keeping his position, because I think he'd be a really good player for us regardless of division. And he can play centre back, he can play right back. Those are good things to have covered, I think. Anyway, what about villain of the piece, or is it too hard to pick just one?
Hutchinson.
Yeah, he was.
I don't know why we still keep picking him in that position. He's clearly lacking legs. We're asking a lot of him, despite the fact that there's so many players haven't had decent pre-seasons this season, and then we're having this schedule, the schedule is barbaric, I must say.
It is.
Like, I really don't know, especially in these times when we've had COVID outbreaks at numerous football clubs. Me and my 2 eldest brothers, my nephew and my dad, we do a prediction league game where, effectively we pick teams. I'm really sad to say that I picked Luton today.
Right.
But as part of this, there are so many games that we still haven't got round to playing and seeing the result of, because for whatever reason, you have winters in the UK, which sound like it had a bit of a bad one. I'll genuinely have a little bit of sympathy, despite the fact that, we had a polar vortex here in North America. But there's COVID outbreaks for not just your team, it could be the other team. So then you're waiting around to get the next game on. The fascination with playing a full season is barbaric. I don't know why maybe they didn't just look at doing a half season.
Greed.
It's greed. It's all the TV contracts, right?
Yeah.
But then in that case, then it's like, well, why can't we just forego international football? Mind you, that's kind of
I mentioned my old pal Greed, Luke. Greed. Because they've got sponsors and TV deals as well.
I know. So
why does every semi-final have to get played at Wembley, even though it destroys how special Wembley is? Greed. The football is a game of greed. It's being ruined by it. It will die because of the greed eventually, but they will pick every little tiny bit of flesh from the bones before they get to that point.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, there's no barbaric season, no preseason, not even a great deal of games he had for Paphos. Why are we continually playing him in a position? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that?
Do you know what his two best moments today were, Luke? Do you know Hutchinson's best two moments were today?
I don't know. No.
Made two really good crunching tackles today. But both of them were immediately after he passed the ball to the person that he tackled. It was almost like a training exercise. It was laughable. Anyway, there we go. That's another week gone.
Yeah.
I think as well, I want to say Thompson is my villain of the piece. I know we'd given up our lead already by the time the subs started, but I think the subs made the third goal inevitable. I think they were awful subs. And from that point, the best thing that could happen, when Marriott came on the pitch, the best possible outcome for Wednesday at that point was a 2-2.
Yeah.
It was just waiting for them to get their third goal at that stage, because what we had on the pitch was not a team. And there are so many people on there for minutes or to make an appearance or whatever. That's just not. I know he said there's there's a third of the season left or something. We don't have time to get Jack Marriott fit.
I know.
It's not our job either.
No.
No, hand him back to Derby knackered. I don't care. I don't want. What a waste of space and time to put him on the football pitch today was.
Yep.
Awful. So anyway, let's end on a slightly brighter note. we have an ostensibly winnable game coming up midweek. That's something positive to look forward to. And I think we just want to say thank you so much to Novelty Island and PW Owl for adding lovely reviews on iTunes. Thank you so much. A really nice boost. And a time when Lord knows we need a boost to enthusiasm. So thank you so much for that. And Luke, did you want to give the email address out, or do you want me to do that?
Could you please do that, Rich? That'd be great.
Yeah, so we just thought if you did want to get in touch with us at all and or share any thoughts, obviously we are on social media. Well, we're on Twitter. That's the only one we're on. But we've got an email address which is differentgravypod@gmail.com. So do feel free to send things through, and maybe if you've got questions or things that you might be intrigued to hear our thoughts on certain things. That might be a fun thing to do at some point. And then on Twitter we are gravy_pod. So yeah, thank you so much for you being lovely people. Sheffield Wednesday don't deserve such niceties, but we're really thankful for them. And have a good week, have a pleasant week, and we'll meet again on the other side. Thanks very much.
Have a good one, everyone. See you.